Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Being Conscious. In continuation with our previous series of videos on the 7 spiritual laws of success, today we are going to discuss about the third law, the law of cause and effect. You heard that right? Law of cause and effect. Now, this might be a very law which probably everyone has been discussing from time immemorial, but today we'll go into certain nuances, certain unexplored dimensions which really need attention because often they get neglected or ignored. So the purpose of today's video would be to address those unexplored dimensions. If you haven't watched the first two videos of this phenomenal book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, it's a pocket-sized book written by well-known Dr. Deepak Chopra. It's a quite ancient book in terms of contemporary standards. It was a book which was published, I guess, 20-25 years back. But the messages in this book is so concise and so potent that it is enough to bring about a paradigm shift in your consciousness. So let's get into the crux and the meat of the video in the law of cause of effect. Let's talk about law of cause and effect. Now, if you just think about it, law of cause and effect, every effect had a cause, whether in the present or in the past. Now, this seems very simple if you just think about it, but there are a lot of layers to it. It says, we all have heard of law of karma, that what you sow you shall reap. The easiest analogy to understand law of karma is to nature. If you sow seeds of mango, you can expect a fruit of mango. But if you are sowing seeds of a plant or a vegetation which you don't like, but that is something which is going to come to you. Now, you would ask a question, why would anyone sow seeds which they don't like? Now, here is the first very important takeaway from this law. 90 to 95% of the population are acting unconsciously. They're taking actions, they're conducting their life in an unconscious fashion, and as a result of that, unknowingly, they are sowing seeds of sorrow, seeds of misery. Now, law of karma is as simple as going inside a mountain cliff, going top of a mountain cliff and shouting out. Whether that shout is something good or bad, what one fails to understand or acknowledge is that that is going to reverberate and return back to its source. Because the thing is, the reason why most of us gravitate towards unconsciousness is because it is easy to be unconscious. And Deepak, at the very first explanation of this law, talks about the importance of leading a conscious life. And my main purpose, my central objective behind this channel is to bring us more towards consciousness from the default state of compulsiveness. Because if you think about the entire notion of spirituality, the only purpose of spirituality, it is to move us from a state of compulsiveness to a state of consciousness. And law of karma is all about making conscious choices. And let's think about it this way. At any given point of time, if you are absolutely conscious, you will realize that it is absolutely impossible for you to do something which is not such a good karma. It is impossible to do a bad karma when you are conscious. You might say, how is this possible? Just think about it. If you are completely aware of your mind, is it possible to feel scared or is it possible to feel anger? If you pause and reflect on what I just said, you will realize that only when a person is completely marred by his unconsciousness is a person capable of doing something which is not good for himself and for those around him. So the root cause, we have all heard of law of karma, but still we succumb to doing things which are not appropriate. It is because we are compulsive. It is because we feel a certain sense of pleasure or a certain sense of compulsiveness to act accordingly. And because of that, we later suffer. Now, Deepak says that suffering is purely illusional, in the sense that once when someone is doing something spontaneously, which is coming out of compulsion rather than consciousness, suffering is bound to happen. Because understand, all suffering, at the very root of every suffering is ignorance. Without ignorance, there cannot be suffering. And 90 to 95% of all suffering which mankind is subjected to today is psychological, is psychosomatic. So the first takeaway of this law of cause of effect is the importance of conscious choice making. We are all subjected to different kind of situations, but every person's way of dealing with that situation is dependent on his consciousness level. Let me give you an example from which you can better relate to what I am saying. Suppose someone is subjected to a Herculean task, a task which seems to be very challenging. Let's say, for example, you work in a company and a manager gives a challenge to 3 of his employees. The challenge is the same, but the way the 3 of them will deal with this challenge is going to be very peculiar. It's going to be unique to each of them. Now you might say, why is it unique? Because the way they perceive it, the way they view that challenge is going to be different. For one person might feel frustrated and say, I don't want to do this challenging job, I am okay with doing my regular activity. There will be another person in the group of 3 people who might feel ignited, who might feel excited to take up the challenge. And there would be other person who would be looking for other job opportunities, fearing what will happen if the challenge the manager has given him is not fulfilled, or he is not able to fare well in the challenge. Now, in this simple example which I just showcased, you can understand that the challenge is the same. The manager is not giving them 3 different challenges, but the same challenge is being perceived by 3 different people differently. Now, one may argue that each of those 3 people might have different skill sets. We are not talking about that. The point I am trying to drive and highlight in this video is our experience of life heavily depends on the way, on our level of consciousness. In this regard, I am reminded of an example of the great Ramana Maharishi. When Ramana Maharishi was operated, he had developed a tumor because of which he had to operate. And there was a situation in that medical facility that there was no anesthesia available. Ramana Maharishi came to know about this and he just told the medical facility, you can cut my arm and I won't move, or I won't feel agitated, or I won't complain. The doctors were absolutely shocked by what he just said. And guess what? After he was amputated, he didn't tell anything. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should become as great as Ramana Maharishi. He is a great enlightened being, he is a Jivan Mukta. But all I'm trying to tell each one of you is that your experience of reality depends on the level of your consciousness. There have been people who are born in a certain family. There is a famous story of 2 brothers. Both of them were given the same kind of situations by nature, our universe, our law of karma, which you would like to call it. They were born in downtrodden conditions. They were subjected to abject poverty. The father of the household was a drunkard. Now guess what? 20 years passed by and one among that brother becomes a billionaire. And the other person mirrors his drunkard father. Now you might think, why is there so much of disparity? On an interview, this person who had become immensely successful told the media that my father was my biggest teacher, and the complete media was shocked, surprised, because they couldn't understand how can this person this father who was completely drunkard, careless, lethargic, become the inspiration of today's successful person? So the media persons asked him to clarify. And you know what the person told? He told, my father taught me what not to do to become a failure. Now, this is the power of perspective. This is the power of different levels of consciousness. The same skyscraper looks like a puny ant when you are navigating through an aeroplane. And this is the power of consciousness. And Deepak Chopra talks about how we can utilize the law of karma and law of cause and effect to our advantage by harnessing the power of consciousness. What he suggests is this, that whenever we are faced with difficult situations, whenever we are facing difficult challenges, we need to constantly ask ourselves, what is the universe trying to teach me? He gives a very pragmatic example. He says, let's say a sports person lost his leg. Now, for a sports person to lose his leg is a devastating event. It's an absolutely tragic event. But guess what? He can make a book, he can curate a book, he can write a book which talks about how to be safe while playing the sport. In that way, he'll be converting that challenge which the universe gave him through the law of karma. Now, he converted that unfortunate event to the benefit of mankind, to the benefit of his fellow beings, so that the other people won't commit the same mistake. Now, through this particular narrative, he completely changed the way karma operated. Instead of getting frustrated, instead of feeling depressed by that negative event, he made sure that he converts that negative situation and learns the lesson. Not only did he learn the lesson, but he also spread that information to all the people so that they can benefit out of it. This is how each one of us can completely utilize the power of consciousness. And no matter what the situation comes, we can continuously ask ourselves as to how we should. What is the universe trying to teach me? Because Swami Vivekananda told it so well. He said that the universe is a great gymnasium, and we come inside this gymnasium to become stronger, to become more powerful. This is a great university to learn, and at the end of your life, the only thing which you are going to take away from you is consciousness. This is not coming from me. This is coming from Lord Krishna himself in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In the 8th chapter, he talked about this. That whatever your state of being is when you're leaving the body, that is going to dictate the life afterwards. Now, Srimad Bhagavad Gita in itself is an exemplary, potent, and an encyclopedia of spiritual knowledge by itself. And in this channel, you can expect some content from that. But the point I'm trying to bring about in terms of the law of karma, the law of cause and effect is, when we are facing untoward experiences, let's ask ourselves, what is the universe trying to teach me? And what is the opportunity for me to convert it into an important lesson, so that not only benefits me, not only that I learn the lesson, but I can impart that lesson for everyone who can benefit from it. He also gives a lot of importance. Deepak is also talking about the act of spontaneous choice making. He gives immense importance to the infinite intelligence our body houses. Our body is more intelligent than our mind and our intellect. And he says that whenever we are making a crucial decision, let us turn our attention to our body, and our body will immediately respond whether that decision is good or bad, whether I should take this decision or not. And if the answer is no, let us obey the body and hold that decision. The second question we can ask is this decision, is this act which I am going to do, is it beneficial for me and for all those around me? Is it going to help both the parties? Is it creating a win-win situation? And if the answer is yes, and if your body is responding with no kind of resistance, that means that action, that choice is correct. And he talks about witnessing, delving into the self, going inside this present moment, witnessing the power of the present moment. And he gives a beautiful analogy that whenever you are in that silence, whenever you are accessing the potential of the self, it is like you're bathing your conscious and subconscious mindset, and you're becoming fresh, because the present moment is called a present for a reason. You know the synonym of gift, right? Whenever we gift someone on some occasion, it is called the present. The present is actually a present because the present moment is the catalyst for all transformation and all change. And you witness each and every choice as you move towards your day, and the more choices are taken from consciousness rather than compulsiveness, spontaneously you are doing good karma, because everything is coming from a place of consciousness rather than compulsiveness. Hope my today's video brought a lot of clarity and talked about unexplored dimensions of the law of cause and effect. And also this idea of utilizing the intelligence of the body is very easy and a very practical way to gauge our decisions. For some, there would be some blockages in the solar plexus region. For some, there might be some blockages in the heart chakra region. And if there is a blockage when you are doing some activity, that means your body is trying to say stop, pause. Because this choice or this action which you are going to take is not only going to harm you, but also those around you. So it's better to listen to our body, because if we don't listen to our body, there will come a time in our life where we will be forced to listen to our body. So the choice is ours, whether we want to listen it today or we want to be forced to listen to it later. Thank you so much for your time on my video. I really hope you derived value out of it. And if you like my video, do share, subscribe to my channel, and also share it with a couple of your well-wishers and whoever needs to listen to this wisdom. Thank you so much, and I'll continue the series. We are done with 3 laws. We have 4 more laws, and after that, we'll talk about a host of topics in this channel. Thank you so much, and I'll meet you in the next video. Bye.